recommend it.
You weren't tempted by the pair-hopping case down here?
Yeah, it's tempting, but we're just trying to kind of narrow down so we know exactly where it is.
The absolute donuts and didn't take the case back off us.
Somebody has that early checkout card. Somebody is going to be going home tonight. Okay, please swap, thank you.
It's not personal, sorry.
Right, it's time to learn your fortunes. For those of you with new cases, please come up one by one to take a look. Keep an eye out for reactions. You never know what you might learn. Right, there we have it. Obviously, one pair will be leaving us this evening. It's time to find out who. Could the unfortunate pair please reveal themselves? Susan and Jen. So sorry to see you go.
It's the game. It's been a hell of a roller coaster ride.
Yeah, we took a risk. It didn't work out.
Please leave your case and say your goodbyes. That almost concludes our business for this evening. As usual, this early checkout card will be delivered to one of your rooms, courtesy of the fortune holders. Not only have they made £10,000, they're also in control of the money at a very interesting time in the game. Well done to you all for still being here. Thank you. Good night.
It doesn't get any easier. It just gets harder and harder and harder every time.
The absolute whirlwind of an adventure that we've just had. And I'm so glad it was with you. I wouldn't have done this with anybody else. We gave it a good go. Yeah, we gave it a good go. Last orders have been called at the bar, Susan, so it's time for drink company. Yeah.
What's that? You were players.
If we go out tomorrow, we're going home take Rambridge. So, we've got this to give away. Adam and Mike, the no-go.
Tommy and Scott, they're very consistent, aren't they, with what they do? A two to watch.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think he'll come to us. I think everyone knows that's a big risk.
Aisha and Sam, I think they've been coasting through and they've been playing very, very safe.
They haven't really played the game yet.
William John at the centre of this conspiracy.
Do we want to be against them in the final? Not really. Yeah, it's going to be a tough choice there.
Now it's 5 last couples. We squashed that alliance.
I feel like it's going to be a battle of the alliances between Cherish and Jay's alliance with Tommy and Scott and our alliance with Michael and Alan.
If that early checkout card comes through our door this evening, it's war.
And we are back at the Fortune Hotel tomorrow night at 9. And to keep you on the edge of your seat till then, head to ITVX for a new sci-fi thriller from the world of Orphan Black. Echoes is available now. We all love a good game. Sky Vegas sponsors the Fortune Hotel. Now, with all the very latest from around the world and here at home, it's the ITV News at 10.
It was a day of brutal reckoning, of damning judgments long overdue, but perhaps the most haunting voices were of those from beyond the grave. Of young boys like Lee, and of the intense suffering he was forced to endure.
He was in so much pain near the end. For the last few years, I think it was too hard for him. And a child shouldn't have to go through what he went through.
No wonder then that the families, so long frustrated by the years of lies and cover-ups, cheered the report's utterly damning conclusions.
People put their faith in doctors and in the government to keep them safe. Their trust was betrayed.
Nor that the Prime Minister had no choice but to offer one of the most abject apologies ever delivered by a leader from this dispatch box.
This is a day of shame for the British state. I want to make a wholehearted and unequivocal apology for this terrible injustice.
It was a scandal that will live long in infamy, a day of reckoning, yes, but also of intense national shame. How did this ever happen, and how do we make sure nothing like it ever happens again? Also on News at 10 tonight. Drone. John has a visceral dispatch from the front line in Ukraine where soldiers try to evacuate villages.
It is astonishing that there are still people living here, but even their resilience has limits. After so much destruction, there really isn't a town left to call home anymore.
The chief prosecutor at the International Criminal Court says he will seek arrest warrants for both the leader of Hamas and the Israeli Prime Minister for potential war crimes. What next for Iran after the death of its president? And there may be trouble ahead. A new president, no friend of Beijing, is sworn in as leader of Taiwan.
This is on TV News at 10 with Tom Bradby.
Good evening. It was, he says, no accident. Sir Brian Longstaff's damning verdict on the infected blood scandal is that doctors, the NHS and successive governments betrayed patients and shattered lives. And adding scandal upon scandal, he also found the truth about the disaster had been deliberately hidden for decades. Published today, his 2,500-page report details a terrible tragedy, the scale of which, he says, is horrifying. More than 30,000 people were infected with deadly viruses through contaminated blood and blood products. Warnings were ignored, patient safety was neglected, and too many lives have been lost waiting for this day. A day of shame, the Prime Minister called it tonight, as he issued an apology to victims. Yet, as Sir Brian's 6-year-long inquiry closes, he has stressed the disaster itself is still ongoing.
The scale is horrifying. 30,000 NHS patients infected with HIV and hepatitis C in the 70s and 80s. More than 3,000 men, women and children have so far died. For decades they faced silence and denials. Today they finally got the truth loud and clear. standing ovation for the man who delivered it.
This disaster was not an accident. People put their faith in doctors and in the government to keep them safe, and their trust was betrayed.
Good morning, son. Merry Christmas to you. Alright? Fella? You got stomachache?
People like Lee and his parents. Just weeks after this, Lee died. He was just 10 years old. He'd been infected with HIV from a product called Factor VIII, used to treat his haemophilia. Imported from the US, it was made using blood from paid donors at high risk of infection, drug users and prisoners.
He used to say he was frightened. The pain was so much for him. He was in so much pain near the end. For the last few years, I think it was too hard for him. And a child shouldn't have to go through what he went through.
The report says a catalogue of failures led to the disaster. The UK Blood Service failed to screen blood donors, even though the risk of hepatitis was known about since the end of World War II. Imported blood products were unsafe and should not have been licensed in the UK. Doctors treated patients despite the known risks and without informing them of the risks. They failed to adjust patients' treatment when safer options